everybody, welcome to Coffee and Curriculum. My name is Alana and I'm the social media manager for Coffee and Curriculum. Coffee and Curriculum is a new and exciting initiative that Kavina Miller has designed in order to create a collaborative safe space for educators, to discuss resources and offer mutual support, and to emphasize a curriculum in shaping our children's futures. Kavina Miller was a Kane graduate alumnus, graduating with her master's degree in 2019. She was majoring in English and Writing Studies, also focusing on racial linguistics. She's currently in her doctor's program working on her EDD, studying in curriculum and instruction. As a world traveler, she uses her international experiences to enhance others' knowledge of different cultures, languages, and awareness. She is also a wife, mother, and dog mom to her fur baby Alex. The project is aimed to bridge a gap between pre-K through 12 and higher education, providing a continuous platform for enhancing curriculum development skills. Coffee and Curriculum shapes their community through webinars and workshops where educators can share their best practices, explore innovative tools, and also implement effective strategies in order to improve educational outcomes. The word curriculum defines itself as a dynamic and evolving blueprint for education, integrating diverse resources, innovative teaching strategies, and a collaborative effort to create a meaningful and impactful learning experience. This definition emphasizes the importance of ongoing development and adaptation of education content to meet the needs of all learners, all of which included into cultivating a community-driven approach to education. During today's session, make sure you use the hashtag CoffeeandCurriculum24 in the chat and also post on social media and tag Kavina V. Miller. Please join us as we aim higher, work collectively, and brew excellence together. Enjoy.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the very first day one of Coffee and Curriculum, Brewing Excellence in Education. My name is Kavina Miller. I'm going to be your host and moderator for the week for this session. And our very first episode is The Perfect Blend, Designing an Effective Curriculum. So we are going to be talking about strategies for aligning curriculum with educational standards, curriculum design principles, incorporating diverse teaching methodologies, and having a wonderful discussion with Dr. Jennifer Edwards, who is here all the way from Texas. And Dr. Edwards is an experienced nonprofit leader and strategist passionate about equity for underrepresented groups. With 20 years of experience in public health and 10 years of related experience in grants and higher education, Dr. Edwards prioritizes resilience, planning, and accessible resources to equip women and their families. She has a PhD from Howard University, an MBA from Walden University that she earned as a working wife and mom during the pandemic, and a BS from Florida A&M University. Dr. Edwards, welcome. Thank you so much for kicking off Coffee and Curriculum. What an honor it is, and I can't wait to have this discussion with you.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it. I love the idea of this space, so this is going to be good. Thank you.
Oh, yes. So we're going to waste no time. We're going to get right into it. So the very first question that I have for you is, how do you ensure a curriculum aligns with local, state, and national educational standards while allowing flexibility and creativity?
Oh, I love that question. So the great part about curriculum development is that it is creative. It is inherently creative. And I think that's part of why I'm so drawn to creating curriculum. And so really what I can say is that initially, it should be all about the ideas, all about the ideas. What is it that you want to bring to your students? What is it that you want to bring to your community? Maybe you have a training program of some kind, and start there. And then once you digest all of your priorities and the outcomes you want to have, then start thinking about all the requirements, because they are numerous. I led the team that received approval for the Bachelor of Science in Public Health program at University of North Texas. And it started off with creativity. It started off with, what are priorities in our field? that we want to make sure that we address in the curriculum. And then I pulled out the accreditation standards. Once we had our own guidepost, once we had our own North Star, then I pulled out the accreditation standards, their CEF standards in public health. And then partnering with the dean, that helped us ensure that we had state standards considered, programmatic standards considered. Here, I'm originally from Ohio. I like to get that out of the way so people stop wondering, well, why are you talking like that? I live in Dallas, Texas now. So it's quite a difference. It's quite a difference. And what we had to do was to look at the state standards in Texas for the program as well. There couldn't be more than one within a certain number of miles of each other. But we didn't get to all of that until we had our own priorities identified, which is it's a creative process. It's a really fun process. It was a lot of those meetings, standing up together, drawing on the whiteboard and brainstorming and shared files and all of that. So it's a lot to balance, but really start off with the creativity and then pull out your standards.
I really appreciate that answer, because I feel like a lot of times when you think curriculum, maybe creativity is not the first thing that comes to people's minds when designing it. But you're right, you have to make sure that you have that creativity space, but allow creativity as well. Like, allow the ideas, like you said, like have your whiteboard up and start discussing things, and everything starts from an idea. So I really like that. Starting off with the creativity first, and then see what brews from them. See what I did there? Like brews. Okay. So the next question that I have: what challenges do educators commonly face when aligning their curriculum with standards, and how can they overcome these obstacles?
Okay, that's a really good question. So I can offer some context in terms of the curriculum lens that I come from. So I referenced the undergraduate public health program. I also curated a curriculum for maternal mental health community health workers. And I've served as a subject matter expert for a competency-based curriculum for a graduate program in public health. And then for my business, because I really thrive at the intersection of health and finances, I create curriculum to roll out things like a podcast series. I mean, that's absolutely curriculum work. You're looking at a calendar, you're looking at topics that are important, you're defining what you want to learn for each topic. And so as I hone in on financial education types of topics, retirement types of topics for my business, I'm also creating curriculum in that particular way. And so there's a range of requirements and restrictions that may or may not be involved. For my business, not so many, because it's my business. In working on the competency-based curriculum, that was part of a university setting, and they were pumping out curricula like nobody's business. It was I've never seen such an efficient and effective process, but they also invested in it to make sure that it would go smoothly. And so, yes, there were requirements, and they had supportive staff that were working with you on, we need these 5 things from you. Here are the dates we need the 5 things from you. They were following up, they were reminding. I mean, they were truly partners in the work. So were there requirements? Yes, particularly date-related requirements. But there was also a partner that was involved, an internal partner that was involved to help with the process, which was really, really important. And then, in the more traditional setting, that was for an online program. In the more traditional setting, there are challenges that can arise, and it's all about conversations, especially for early programs, you may not have all the courses in-house or within your department that
Right.
you want to offer. So you've got to talk to other departments to help populate your curriculum with courses. And so, you know, the biggest takeaway I can have is that there are challenges and there are barriers, but a lot of times finding that proper internal partner will help you get through it all. You don't have to do everything yourself.
Right. And so when I'm looking at to make sure that people are listening to what you're saying is you have to work together. Yeah. You know, you have to do that. And you also need to be organized as well. And those two definitely go hand in hand. And I think that would eliminate some of the obstacles that they would face when designing or aligning their curriculum with the standards that they need for whether it's local or state standards. So that's also very, very important. What are the core principles that you believe are essential for effective curriculum design?
Oh, I really like the ADDIE model. You know, I think it can be
Yes.
applied narrowly or it can be applied more broadly, where you want to assess what are true needs, learning needs that your curriculum can meet. Then design the curriculum. So that's the creativity. Those are the concepts you want to touch on. Then develop the curriculum. So what are your actual courses? What are the learning outcomes for each courses? What are the learning objectives for each course? And then implement. So actually offer your curriculum, get it approved. And I know I'm saying get it approved like it happens really fast. If you're in the university setting, not so much.
Right.
And then you want to have an evaluation component, which if you're in a uni setting, you will have that kind of built in as well. But it's just really a good way to ensure that you're grounding yourself in the needs of who you're trying to serve, the learners you're trying to support. And then by the end, you're also evaluating to make sure that your curriculum stayed true to your initial intent. So the evaluation should very much be crafted around the learning outcomes and the learning objectives. And then I know we have, you know, the built-in evals per course
Right.
that in an ideal world would touch on.
Right. And for those of you who may not be familiar with the ADDIE model, I'm going to maybe throw it in the chat or throw it out there because that was something that I learned as well. That's why I was like, yes, that's exactly like what I thought about when you said it. And it is very effective and it does help keep you in constant reminder of what core principles you need when you're trying to design your curriculum. And of course, like you said, in an ideal world, we would like things to, you know, get speeded up a little bit, but that's not always the case because there's a lot of other factors and steps that have to go into place before your curriculum is approved. So my next question that I have for you is, how do you balance the need for a structured curriculum with accommodating individual student learning styles and needs? So that's like, oof. So
Yeah, so you know, especially K through 12, which I believe you have K through 12 listeners as
yes.
well. I've served as a teaching assistant in that capacity many years ago. The curriculum is not going to be the place where you will uniquely meet student needs. Where you uniquely meet their needs will be in the implementation of the classes, the activities that are planned, and the support that they will have. They should absolutely have that wraparound support from your campus. If they're on a type of learning plan, or if they do need attention, then, you know, it is part of the implementation piece in terms of ensuring they have the support they need to make it through the curriculum. But it would be It would be a really tall request to specialize curriculum for every single student. The curriculum is the foundation, and then where the tailoring comes in is in how it is being taught and what resources are you pulling in for the students as needed in the classroom.
Right. So I was making notes as you said. I'm like, oh, that's good. I'm writing notes down myself because it's important to remember that when you are thinking about, as all educators would like to and should, is think about your student as individuals and not these bodies and cohorts of students, but individual students that have particular needs when they come into the classroom. And then it's our job to make sure, to the best of our ability, try to meet their need and style as closely as possible.
Yeah, and
What?
if I could just add to that
Oh
quickly,
yeah,
I'm kind of
of
like
course.
taking off doctor hat, putting on mom hat. I have a very active and engaged son, and I was looking into, how can I strengthen his performance in the classroom? He does very well, and there are times when, frankly, he may not be engaged as much as he needs to be.
Mhm.
And one option that our school does offer that I really appreciated was they have about 30 minutes of differentiated learning every day. And so, if there is a topic that you might want your child to be strengthened in, or even down to like speech pathology, if your child needs help pronouncing certain words, there's this 30 minutes a day where there is specialized differentiated learning for students that have been assessed and
Mhm.
approved to be in that classroom time. And I really loved that idea. I really loved it. So they do get the specialized attention, at least for a little bit.
Wow, that's actually something that, for the people who are listening, that's something to even think about, to discuss amongst, your district or your leaders or your colleagues, or even like you said, taking off, the educator hat, PhD hat, putting on the mom hat. How can parents and guardians think about that when it comes to what they're doing in the classroom and then what they're bringing home, and how we can blend the two as well. Um, and I guess, what advice, just real quickly, what is one piece of advice you would say to a parent or guardian who may be struggling with that?
So the best advice that I received as a parent was to allow school to have its own charm and allow home to have its own charm. So if you're partnering with teachers, teachers are on our side, educators are on our side, right? As a parent, then let the school craft the intervention, the program, whatever your child might need working with you, and then trust them to implement it. At
Mm.
home, decide, here's what I can do at home. Don't try to replicate what's going on in the school. Don't try to become an expert educator, because as you all know, there's a lot of study that goes into this, right? So a parent can figure out how they can benefit their child. And please don't take this as I think I'm a model parent. I think we're all out here winging it. Okay. I've got a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old. Um, Figure out what you are strong in and do that. A lot of times our children need encouragement. Maybe that's your role. And then you've talked to the school and they're implementing the program. So let home be a positive space doing what you're good at, and then let school be the positive space doing what they're good at.
Right. And I like that a lot. And I'm glad that we are able to say that to our audience, because um I think a lot of times we leave out that part of the conversation when discussing these things, and we oftentimes separate it, but I just wanted to start closing some gaps around here. So thank you for answering that. Um I guess moving on, it's kind of going back to the first question of that creativity part a little bit, but what innovative teaching methodologies can be incorporated into the curriculum to enhance student engagement and learning outcomes?
Ooh, Really, the innovation lies in determining what the gaps are. And so that question is going to be different for every educator listening. For example, the maternal mental health community health worker curriculum that I put together was extremely innovative because it was based on gaps. And we're up to something like 885 participants enrolled because they saw the value and the need for it. There are plenty of maternal health programs. There are plenty of child health programs, plenty of maternal and child health programs, plenty of mental health programs, plenty of community health worker programs. But was there a maternal mental health community health worker program? There was not. And so we're the only program nationally doing this because we knew what the gap was. And so when it comes to innovation, really think about what are the gaps that you can meet in your curriculum. It doesn't have to be a huge one. You could be specializing, and it will depend on the kind of school setting you're in. Are you in higher ed? Are you at a charter school or magnet school or advanced IB kind of school? But really focus on what do you see is missing. Once you start asking enough questions and start thinking over time about the questions and the needs that you've had that aren't being supported, that's where your innovation is. You can complain about it not being available, or you can be innovative and you can create it.
And that's something that, you know, we're looking to do in this space of coffee and curriculum, is looking at how we can close gaps. Because I think a lot of times we have these conversations and there are spaces like this where you can talk about, okay, how are we going to do this and what are we doing for the new school year? And we have these conversations, but then the same issue repeats the following year, and then it just keeps going and going. And then it's like, okay, we don't know what to do anymore. And then now we're stuck. And then now people are being unheard, and then the students are starting to suffer. So like, I think closing gaps is the perfect answer for that question. And it's not to say that you're supposed to put on a cape and fly around and save everyone and save everything. But when you're looking at gaps, you're doing something very specific to this, you know, particular need in the area that you're in, because what may work for you where you are, it may not work here in Jersey, you know, and we may have different gaps to close. So everybody has their own need and their own space, you know? So I like that a lot. How do you—
Absolutely. Don't do all the things, do one thing really well.
Yes, exactly. And that's something that I personally had to learn. I don't know how many people listening are early career, such as myself, but that is something that I had to learn early on, is that just do one thing at a time, one thing at a time. I feel like in education, not blaming it on it, but you get your degree and then you get another degree, and then, you know, now I'm in my doctoral program, and then it's like, I feel like I have to be super person and super V, and that's just not what this space is about and why you become an educator in the first place, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So moving on to our next question is, how do you ensure diverse teaching methods are accessible and effective for all students, regardless of their backgrounds or learning abilities?
So I just had an opportunity to do a really cool project around this. And so I might be honing in on just one aspect of this question, but I do think there are a lot of valuable lessons that were learned. And it still extends into partnerships. Who should you be leveraging internally within your school? What community-based organizations? So I have to emphasize the value of community in what you might be trying to accomplish as well. I had the opportunity to focus on a limited English proficiency plan for a state organization where they had language access and language justice priorities. And there are, of course, federal requirements and legal requirements in terms of making content accessible in written form and in verbal form. And there are still very necessary conversations that have to be had around language justice and equity. Do people think that it is important to meet diverse student needs? And so you've got to think of different layers of this conversation. Is the school district supportive? Is the superintendent supportive? Is your school supportive? Your principal supportive? And then you can get down into the teams that you might have and crafting resources specifically for your students. Otherwise, it's an uphill battle. If you are in isolation, trying to create resources and tools by yourself, and then they're not approved for the team curriculum, or they're not approved for the district curriculum, or they don't align with state requirements. So you want to make sure that there's alignment across all levels, state, district, school, in terms of the requirements, in terms of the perspective and support. And from what we found, every state thinks about this differently. Some are more immersed into language justice than others. Some are really just trying to meet the bare minimum requirements for limited English proficiency. So you have to think about, okay, what is the universe that I'm in first? So that you know what kind of journey you're about to be on. And then you absolutely want to have community-based partners, because you're going to need resources that you may not have in-house. And this is where vendor requests might come up for the school district. You might have to post an RFP, work with your principal to get that done for, translators and interpreters and access to specific equipment, for example. But it takes conversations about, okay, now, what do we need to get this done? So it's a process. You have to hear from the community, even a PTA meeting, that counts. In terms of, here are the students we serve. Pull the data. School districts, universities are great with data. They've got offices and staff committed to that. Find out who is at your school, what languages do they speak, what are their demographics, so that you can start crafting things based on the learners that you're engaging with. So it really requires the data, the community partnerships, and also just understanding, really the policy kind of perspective that you're in.
Right. And definitely when it comes to data, and I don't know if anyone was like me, but anytime I heard that word, I kind of shifted my head over like, that doesn't really apply to me, or I don't really need to. But the purpose of that is, like you said, you don't really know specifically what you're going to need, and also having that conversation with the community. And it's more than just one factor that goes into looking at these type of issues, So definitely look at the data is what I'm trying to say. Look at the data, okay?
Yes.
Definitely. And then maybe even ask someone like, hey, can you help me look at this data? And can you break down what this means? And can I look at the year before? Like you said, ask and work together with other people in order to do this effectively.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Could you share a success story where incorporating diverse teaching methodologies significantly improves student performance?
Oh, absolutely. So I'll continue with the maternal mental health community health worker certificate.
Yes.
In that the core of this particular work was to make the learning experience accessible. So this is for individuals who value maternal mental health. There are a lot of doulas, midwives, public health professionals that have enrolled in the certificate program because we focus on accessibility. We aren't making somebody go to a brick and mortar university every day from 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock p.m. So we are saying and prioritizing accessibility for this particular experience. That means the mom with children that's also working can do this after they've gone to sleep. The professional who might be at a very strict 9 to 5 and cannot access additional training can do this after they get off from work. It's free. At this point, we've given away about $4 million in access to training. I've led the HRSA Community Health Worker Training Program as a principal investigator. I know the budgets that go behind these training programs. And so what we said for this certificate is we want to make it accessible. So it's free, it's flexible, it's self-paced. So it is based on competencies. There are 8 particular modules, and the individual can access those modules when they get ready. And so really the innovation behind it and the accessibility piece are what make it stand out. And we're working on just additional research and data around other programs nationally that even might be more general, but in terms of the number of hours required, it's about 170 hours. And so, we're also ensuring there are partnerships with universities. If you have students that do this, we will give you 12 hours of course credits. So you want to kind of layer the benefits of what you are offering. Once again, partnerships, we're partnering with universities, we're partnering with community-based organizations, with clinical organizations that might have staff that can benefit from this, community members that want to serve their communities so that they can benefit from this. So a lot of it really lies in our focus on accessibility, because we've done it in terms of price, in terms of location as well, and then in terms of specialization.
And I already know, because as you can see, I'm writing, my brain is turning, I'm writing those down because it's more so of the how part. I feel like I need a part 2 with you. Like, I feel like I just need a whole other separate thing outside of this, because now I'm wondering the how to. That's the part where my brain is turning with that, because it is such a need in that particular field, especially in the climate that we're in of our country. It's very important to see what other things we can do outside of the conversation, because the discussions are good, the webinars are good, this is good, but now it's like, okay, now what can I actually do to put things into action? So now you have my brain turning, Dr. Edwards. Like, oh man, we need to talk more. That was really good. I think the flexibility and accessibility is important, and something for those who are watching or listening to put that into consideration when you're thinking about your organization or your school when it comes to designing your curriculum, for sure. What advice would you give to educators just starting to design their curriculum? Oh, okay, there you go.
Really make time to think about your own strengths and what you can bring to the experience. You can't be anybody different, anybody else. I've taken the assessments, make time to take the DISC assessment. I like that one quite a bit. I've taken personally a spiritual gifts assessment. Really make time to get to know yourself and your capabilities and your skills. Your capabilities are what are core to you. Those likely won't change over time much. Your skills are what you bring to the table that you have learned that you are strong at, and those tend to evolve over time. And I say this because once you have an idea of your strengths, then you can build your team to create the curriculum, to get into that brainstorming space, get into that conversation space with, the partnerships with other departments that you might need to do, or talking to the administrative offices. But you have to know what your strengths are. If we look at profiles more generally, because I'm not at all an HR expert on the DISC assessment, but there are individuals who are strong with being autonomous and going out there and getting it done. There are individuals who really like the nurturing component. in terms of building community and being around people. There are individuals who are steady and consistent and can build things over time, and there are highly analytical individuals. So if you're the highly analytical individual, you may or may not want to be the person that's running that public meeting, trying to figure out what our community needs for your curriculum. You do want to have that person on your team. If you're not that strong, dominant, autonomous person, maybe you're more steady and consistent over time, you maybe want that person to come on your team as the project manager to help you keep on track with dates and the resources that you need from those contributing to the curriculum. And so I can't say enough. It's not about competition, it's about collaboration. And don't try to show up as anyone except for yourself. We all have a unique profile. None of us are perfect. It's about building a team that complements each other to get it done.
Oh yeah, and what I'm hearing is, as well as, authenticity is just very important when you are coming together, and like you said, learn yourself first and then come to your team and work with your team to know what their strengths are and what they can bring individually. And then I feel like you'll have a better diverse look at your curriculum in order to roll out to your students or your audience or whoever's going to be looking at the project. So definitely be your authentic self. Everyone, please don't try to be nothing else but yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The last question I have before we get into some of our audience questions is, how do you stay up to date or updated with the latest curriculum design, implementation trends, and research?
Oh, I'm good for joining an email list. And actually reviewing those emails. I kind of have a designated email account for those kinds of subscriptions. So, I don't want it in the same email account where I'm learning about Delta Sigma Theta, Jack and Jill, my more personal, exciting, fun things. I have a separate space for that. And I use that email address for all subscriptions. So, think about what national organizations are important to you, what state organizations, what local organizations are important to you, and then get on their email list. And what you will find is you will start learning about events in your area, meetings in your area, relevant conferences, and it's coming to you. I'm very big on information coming to me. I can't be searching 5-10 websites every day just to see, hey, what's new? And so it's really, for me, it's like the modern day newspaper. I might be dating myself significantly, but that's okay. Where you create really the push notifications, the incoming notifications in your email inbox. I mean, I don't advocate for like actually having sound on. I don't think I've had sound come out of my phone probably in 5 years. But the idea is that you're getting the information coming to you. So that's what I do. And then over time, you find that you start intersecting with similar individuals, you start having conversations, you start being recognized, building partnerships, building that credibility. And really, it all started with being added to the email list and having clarity around, these are the organizations that I want to connect with and connect in. I don't try to do everything and all the things. I'm elected to the health administration section counselor role for American Public Health Association. That's my primary activity right now. And I serve on a couple of boards that are long-term because they're missions that are true to what I'm interested in. But you connect yourself in certain spaces, a handful of spaces, where you can have longevity over time and learn from the people that are there.
Oh, yeah, I think that's probably one of the best pieces of advice for sure. And a lot of times I think we shy away from things like the email listings, but what you're also telling everyone is that you can use, and I'm jumping way ahead to Friday for our technology part of Coffee and Curriculum, but you're using technology purposefully to gain knowledge and connectivity and awareness and updates and things like that. And having that space outside of your personal, outside of work, outside of school, whatever, is crucial if you want to stay on top of things when it comes to, curriculum design, implementation, whatever research, whatever it is that you're looking for. So I think that's a perfect way to segue into a question from the audience is what are some potential challenges or barriers to implementing? I know this word is like, kind of a hot topic right now, but implementing DEI focused curricula and how can educators overcome these obstacles?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
And I've had the opportunity to intersect with DEI throughout my career in various capacities. You have to be savvy and smart about how you are implementing it. We have states that are completely removing it from universities, and we have the Supreme Court ruling where there has to be compliance. And some schools have still been very crafty in how they are complying, yet still delivering the related mission to DEI. So you've got to be real about where you are. I'm on a DEI work group, and our perspectives range in terms of how we approach DEI. Some say, well, make sure you don't say anything that's going to get you fired. Others are saying, you say what's right and it shouldn't get you fired. I mean, there's, for so many of us to be committed to DEI work, whether it's health specific, finance specific, education specific, there are still a range of perspectives that are involved. Are you in a context? So now we're back to context. If you're trying to be strategic, you have to think about the environment that you're in. Are you in the environment that thinks that all persons of color have similar experiences and we can craft programs in education that might be racially inspired the exact same way, whether the person is African American or Asian, for example,
Right.
or are you somewhere that might recognize that there are differences that can be celebrated and acknowledged, and also tailored programming to benefit each of those groups respectively and individually. So you have to think about where you are, and then, you have to be smart about it. Are you at the employer where you're going to be penalized if you say anything relating to DEI? Also, as you move further along in life, you start to recognize, hey, maybe this isn't the employer for me if I can't speak up about what's right, So, and it takes some time to come to that space. But, that's something to think about as well. And then it's really helpful if you're able to craft your DEI efforts around national standards, tools, research. So backing it up with the data, show that you have the data. Hey, here is our profile of students. How are we serving our students? The word diversity, equity, inclusion never has to come out of your mouth. You can say, these are our students. What are we doing for them? So there's more than one way to, let's see, I don't want to use the animal reference. Things have gotten tricky. There's more than one way to accomplish a goal. You have to think about what is best for you at your organization.
Absolutely. And I think you answered that, effectively. And I hope, so the person watching who asked it, I hope you're able to take away some things that Dr. Edwards said and, apply it to, whatever situation you're looking at. How can you use curriculum to differentiate student learning? And I think we did touch upon this a little bit, but this was a question from the audience.
Yeah, it's really about what spice and what sauce you put on it in the classroom. So how are you leveraging the curriculum to deliver it in creative ways, in ways that connect you with your students. And so when you're in the classroom, you're going to know what that means. If you have a lot of tactile learners, you're going to want activities for them. You're going to want to vary the ways that you're delivering information. Maybe you've got reading time and then you've got listening time. I mean, it's really in the implementation phase that you're able to differentiate for your students. And then, of course, still leverage the school support. If you have students that truly are on specialized plans, you want that partnership. You want to make sure that they are connected with the plans and the support that they need as well for their learning.
Right, absolutely. And the last question, how would someone not teaching already at the school propose to the department committee to add a new program to the school?
I love the ambition of this question. There's policy and then there's real life, you know, and it goes back to making your case. If you see that there is a need, what is it based on? If it's just your opinion, that's likely not going to go very far. And so you want to think about, what can I do to be heard? And then that's when you get into public meetings, the city council meetings, the school board meetings, where you make time and you follow their process for submitting a letter to have that conversation. But make sure the letter's good. Don't just get up there talking about your opinion. You want to make sure that it's grounded in data and is truly a strong appeal to revise a curriculum or to pose a new curriculum. At the same time, it depends on the kind of institution that you're in. If you're in a private institution and we're talking K through 12, then that school board meeting is not where you need to be. You want to be having direct conversations with the principal. If you're at a university, it can be more challenging. You're really able to provide insights for your area of expertise. If you're trying to pose something in a university setting that's outside of your department, it will be challenging for it to go anywhere. And so, it slightly varies K through 12 versus university, but at a university, you're best able to affect change if you're on the faculty or if you're on an advisory committee for the program, which they do engage community members in some programs to be part of their advisory committees. The states often will have advisory committees on various topics as well. So another email list you kind of get added to, and you can see when they're calling for their advisory committees. And so you really can't be an outsider saying, I want this in the curriculum. I want this new curriculum. You have to be committed to the work, immersed in the work already, whether K through 12 or in the undergraduate setting, in order to make the change. And then, K through 12, if it's a public setting, a lot of times curriculum is done at the state level. And so are you fighting an uphill battle, or are these school level modifications that can be made? But get ready for a lot of advocacy and collecting of signatures and all of this. If you're really trying to go down that kind of a route, or get on administration in a school district so that you're able to actively be part of the change. And then in the university setting, you want to make sure that you have the buy-in of the dean. The dean is who makes the decisions about courses offered and when they're offered and what the curriculum looks like. And they know the accreditation requirements and when curricula can be modified. And they work with the faculty senate. They work with the chancellor. So you've got to have those conversations with the dean, who can sit in with you on those partnership discussions. So the takeaway is you can't do it in isolation, and you have to be part of the work, not just kind of judging or criticizing the work and saying it needs to be different.
I like that, as really involving yourself as well, getting your hands dirty, really, and seeing like, okay, if you really want to do this, it's like all full, commitment from you, and that's very important. I did say that that was the last question, but I did have one more question for you, Dr. Edwards. how can you give or what information do you have when it comes to successful strategies for implementing a new curriculum, um, or like how to see results from that when there are multiple curriculums being used?
Yeah, for any new effort, you want to be open to real-time feedback
Mm,
and rapid response changes. If something not isn't working, it's not working. You want to know in real life, is this working or not? And so, yes, there are longer efforts of assessment and of measurement that might happen at the end of the semester or the school year. However, if you know it's a new curriculum and it's, the first day in one of your classes has 0 students registered, it's time to look at the curriculum and say, okay, do we need to tweak the title, the content, the outcomes, the objectives? What went wrong here that we can improve? And it's not a personal affront. Don't personalize the gaps or the challenges that arise. Keep it within the context of, this is curriculum design and development. What can we improve for the curriculum so that we have the response and the engagement that we need? And so, you really just want to make sure that quality improvement is at the forefront. And I know that can be a loaded term, but the general idea is be willing and open to feedback and making tweaks quickly.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for that. I was like, let me just ask this one more because I think you not only did you touch upon it in, with the other questions, but I think that's a good way to, wrap up this session and really looking at not just how to design it, but looking back and saying, okay, maybe we need to revise, and it's okay to revise, and the importance of revision, as we all educators know. Revision really looks at not so much gaps, but maybe there's just something that needs tweaking. And then that's going to be the one that offsets. And it's like, okay, we have something here that we can use, and students are responding to it. So thank you for that. And already that went by so fast. And again, I just want to thank you again, for coming on here, sharing the space with me, sharing the space with the audience, and implying your knowledge on to us and giving us an opportunity to hear from you and how we can take everything that we talked about today and now afterwards going, okay, now I have something that I can actually use into action, and we're not just sitting here talking, but there's substantial things that we can use and bring it back to our schools and our communities and our organizations, our homes. So thank you so much, and tune in. Tomorrow is going to be day 2 with Dr. Terry Hughes and Alexa Cruz, and we're going to be roasting resources, and that's going to be tools for curriculum development. So today we talked about effective implementation and strategy and coming up with the curriculum, and now we're going to see what are some tools that we can use for that curriculum. So again, Dr. Edwards, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me. This is wonderful.
Yes, thank you. Okay.